This week on Pivot with Purpose.
My mother gets a message from somebody on Facebook talking about, I'm having an affair with your daughter's husband.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Not this bitch gonna call my mama.
Right? Okay.
Not my mama.
She went and found my mom on Facebook and sent her dick pics. Like all the messages that they've been corresponding. Like, ma'am, she had all the evidence. But
she's sending it to the wrong person.
Well, apparently she had been trying to get in touch with me. And for whatever reason, I didn't get her messages.
Welcome back to another episode of Pivot with Purpose. With me again, host is now leaving. I'm back. This week we have a really special guest. And I say special because I just hugged her thinking like, girl, I know you. And this is what I do because I am a hermit crab and I meet people online and I do everything via Zoom and Instagram and text messages and FaceTime. And I don't realize that I actually don't know people in person. So life is just so different nowadays. And it's not like we're at 60. We're like, back in the day. But I already started doing the whole back in the day situation. So before we get started, I do want to shout out a Apple Podcast review. This one is from her Instagram. Actually, y'all listen. I love it. You left me your @ name. It's @ Les_Lee_Les. So Leslie Les. Shout out, girl. She says, I look forward to every show. It's like being included in a conversation with close friends. This podcast has encouraged me with my career goals, mental health, and my relationships with others. Thank you, Carla. Ooh, I like that because it's exactly what the show is. It is career. We're not going to work for these people forever. And then if we do, we're going to use them the same way they use us. Mental health. We don't want to kill anybody. We want to make sure we're sane and we can, go for those career goals and relationships because these niggas. But outside of that, if you have not yet left an Apple Podcast review, please do so. It helps the show. It helps us grow. And this week we actually were number 48 on the charts. So, yay! That's a big deal for me because I work really hard, especially in the last couple of years, using, what I know for others, right? Producing other pods. And I've really gone hard as of April of last year back on this platform because my podcast is the model for my business. And it's like, if I can do it, then I can help you do it as well. There's a lot of people that help others do podcasting and be in this space, but they one, they don't run it as a business. And two, can you do it yourself? Yeah, can you do what you're telling me to do? And I'm not a celebrity. I'm not this person with like a blue check mark and hundreds of thousands of followers. I started this pod with 1,000 followers. So you could do it. And I still live in Orlando and I'm still a hermit crab. And yes, I have a radio show, but the radio show is because of this podcast and me being consistent with this pod, which is why they reached out. So keep going. Get your goals. Your career goals will come. But anyways, we have Jannese Torres here, a fellow Boricua in the house. I love it. So I don't even remember how I found you online.
It was an algorithm
thing.
Yeah.
Definitely an algorithm thing. And I saw it and I'm like, wow, she really, really likes Bad Bunny.
Really obsessed. I'm a stan.
Yeah, she really is. But I love it because you're so genuine with it.
Yeah.
And then some of the times I'm like, do I follow him? I see posts and I'm like, oh, did he? And I'm like, I kid you not. I have looked on your page and see like stuff pops up in Instagram. And I'm like, oh, and I enjoy them. Then I'm like, where did she get this from? Did he send her a video? Because it's not on his page. It's not on his story. So you definitely have a does he send you videos?
No, you have to follow the fan pages because they're the ones that stalk the celebrities and get all the stuff.
Oh, okay, don't tell it. We're going to go with the fact that he sends her videos and that's how she gets them. She's Bad Bunny's friend.
I got an inside connection.
Absolutely. I feel like he should have seen your page by now.
He should have. I mean, I'm waiting to be invited to the next Grammy performance.
I know you will.
I'm here for it.
From this podcast to God's ears to his Instagram, he's going to send you a DM and be like, do you want to come to the show?
Let's do it. I'm here for it.
You imagine?
Manifestation.
Yes! We got to manifest that. You'll be at that show. Or if you make it to one of the shows, someone's going to recognize you and bring you to the back.
I'm here for that too.
Yeah.
By any means necessary.
Something will happen. Well, Janiece is the host of Quiero Dinero Podcast. So, Avi, she's Puerto Rican. Where were you born?
I was actually born in Jersey.
Lord, Jersey.
Yeah.
Why does Jersey keep following me? Oh my God.
Elizabeth, New Jersey, right by Newark Airport.
Oh my God, my grandma lives in Elizabeth.
Yeah. Born and raised.
Born and raised there?
Yep.
Okay, so your parents are from Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Or were they also born and raised in Jersey?
No, they met in high school in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And then came to the States, and I ended up in Jersey of all places.
Do they speak English? Because my grandma's been there 40 years.
Yeah.
And does not speak a lick of English.
They're bilingual for sure.
Okay.
They had to figure it out.
I don't know what it is about Jersey and New York. They just look at you stupid.
Yeah.
Like, okay, English where? They don't care about speaking because everybody speaks Spanish over there.
It's true.
Okay, so you're a financial expert. Aside from a Bad Bunny stan, I found you when I came back home from, Jersey.
Yeah.
And I was, finding little things. And I remember seeing a story about it was abuse and financial abuse and leaving a marriage. And I was like, oh, I really like that. But then when I really went diving in, I'm like, oh, she's a boss ass bitch too. She's out here making money and figuring it out. So how do you, when someone says like, what do you do? It took me forever for me to be able to say, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
My podcast, I help people. Like, I didn't know. So what do you tell someone? Like, oh, so what do you do?
I think it depends on who I'm talking to. But if I had to like distill it down to a single title, because, as content creators, I mean, we're doing all the things. I empower women to use money as a tool to reclaim, their power. That's literally my mission on planet Earth.
Power and freedom.
That's it.
I like that.
That's the vibe.
So you do a lot of digital products.
Yep.
So you've basically started a side hustle. But what were you worked corporate at one point?
Yeah, I was actually an engineer for 14 years.
What kind of engineer?
So I was working in pharmaceuticals, in medical device. I worked in cosmetics.
Oh, she's smart.
I worked in consumer manufacturing. So I took after my dad. My dad is an engineer too.
Nice.
And so that was like the path that I was envisioning for myself, right? I'm just going to go be the smart kid that gets a good job and works 40 something years and retires with a pension. And by the time I was 27, I was like, yo, I'm not cut out for somebody telling me what to do. Being the only Latina in a lot of these spaces, I was dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome, anxiety, feeling like, what's the point of this? I don't even feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. And I started content creation as a food blogger to have I literally just needed something to do that did not involve some really corporate, white collar structure.
Right. Food blog. Food. I have a few food bloggers that follow me, and I love when they come on the lives and we talk, and I'm like, that has to be fun going out and like finding different foods. So the food blogging thing, I guess, didn't work out or didn't keep going?
Absolutely is what allowed me to quit my job.
Shut up.
Literally.
Okay. Well, tell me. Well, yes. Fuck, I don't know all this. I just know the money girl.
No, absolutely. So yeah, there's a whole nonlinear path to entrepreneurship, right? Okay. It's never ever direct. So I started a Puerto Rican food blog called Delish Delights. It's still in existence today, 10 years later.
Get out.
Yeah.
And do you still run it, or you have some people running it?
So it kind of just runs itself at this point, but it got to a place where now it earns 6 figures in passive income.
Shut up.
And in 2021, I was able to quit my job because of it.
So how does one make money off of a food blog?
So you monetize it with a couple different things. A lot of people do like influencer marketing, right? Well, you do brand partnerships, affiliate marketing, where you're pitching products that are related to the audience that you have. Right. And for me, the majority of my income actually comes from display ads. So those are the ads that you place on a website. You could use, services like AdThrive or Mediavine. And based on the amount of traffic that you have, that's basically how much money you can generate. So I have about 4 million, 5 million readers a year. And that's what generates 6 figures in passive income.
And you still write blogs?
No.
It's just from the old blogs?
It's just from the old blog posts. I have 300 blog posts that do their own thing. Like
they just sit there and people just find it because they Google it and all that. Okay. I love it. That's SEO, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Just when you Google something, her website will pop up.
Absolutely.
So, and you don't have to be the same thing with podcasting.
Yeah.
Oh, someone will tell me they listened to an episode from 3 years ago. And I'm like, how did you find it? They Googled something and the podcast came up.
Right.
So it's all about how you do your website and you put out, you have to use the internet. It's there for us.
That's the power of long form content and SEO.
It is. Okay. So food blogger 1.
Yep.
You quit your job.
Yep.
You quit I got fired. You quit.
I got fired 6 months after starting the blog, and that actually gave me the space to take it from a hobby to an actual business.
Gotcha.
So I took the time. I got a severance package, so I took like 3 months before going back to work. Right. Started taking classes. I was enrolled in Google and YouTube University, learning how to actually turn this into a business, and that's really what took things to the next level.
I love that. Now, were you married at this point?
Yeah, I was actually freshly married.
Freshly married.
Mm-hmm.
You were 27. How old are you now?
I am going to be 38, so I'm 37 now.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're on the same age.
Yeah.
So you were 27 and freshly married.
Mm-hmm.
and you get laid off and now you start going. Can we go into how the dynamic was of being an entrepreneur and marriage and what that looks like? Because sometimes when you marry someone and you're in corporate, they're expecting you to stay in that square of having benefits and having a paycheck every Friday. So that changes things.
Yeah. And so my ex-husband was an entrepreneur before me.
Okay.
So he started a side hustle as a DJ. He grew up in a family where it was really musically inclined. I think his dad was also a DJ. So I had a hard time with that in the beginning, to be honest. And I feel like that almost drove me to create my own thing because I was like, why you got to be out of the house doing all this stuff all the time? And so once I found my own project, I became obsessive about it, right? And I always had this long-term vision of working for myself, and we were never aligned on that plan.
For you to work for yourself?
Like
he
just
works for himself, you work for somebody else.
He wanted to keep his 9 to 5 and do the side hustle thing. I always wanted to have this vision of like the two of us being entrepreneurs and like going out there and killing it and building an empire. And I feel like the further along I got in my entrepreneurial journey, the further apart we got as a couple, because the visions were completely not aligned.
And it wasn't being supported either.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really brought me to your page then was how open you were, because as I spoke about this with Ariel and other people that I've had on the podcast, it's that sometimes when you speak about what happens inside the house, look at en la casa, no se habla afuera, and you keep it inside and you don't talk about your problems, especially your marital problems or your family problems, that's not a thing. So I have a few things here. It's like women's household income fell by an average of 41% with divorce. Almost twice the size of the decline that men experience. So men don't experience as big of a decline in income because we are sometimes supported by our men, and we are taught to say, hey, the man makes the money. Right. We're at home washing clothes, laying on our backs at night.
And women typically get paid less, even if they are working full time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember while I was being an accountant, I used to be a staff too and had peers, white men peers that were making a lot more money than I was. And I was doing all the work. But I was also a terrible employee. But I was
it's the patriarchy.
It is. So that part, I was like, my goodness, it's a thing. And I've always known of that. But now you guys are starting to go in different directions. Where is this whole financial aspect coming that it came to a head?
Yeah. So ironically enough, I have always been of the belief that like my money is my money and your money is your money. And so we operated like that in the marriage too. Okay. We didn't have any joint accounts. We didn't take out any joint loans together, no joint credit cards. I was always just like, look, I'm busting my ass for this money. Like, you're not entitled to it. Right. And I always felt the same about his. Like, I was never going to be asking him for anything that he earned.
Right. Yeah, my money is my money. Your money is my money. And that's it. But okay.
Like we shared the bills based on percentage of income. But what I realized after a while is that like my career was continuing to grow and I was making a lot more money. And the idea of, 50-50 didn't make sense at that point because I was just earning so much more. And especially when I started getting really serious about entrepreneurship.
And at this point, you're making money from the food blog.
Yeah. Okay. Making money from the food blog. And I had a 6-figure corporate career at that time as well. So I always kept things separate. And that was also a function of the fact that he was terrible with money. Like from the beginning, he had defaulted on student loans. He had a bunch of credit card debt. He owed money to the IRS. I was like, I'm not getting involved with this, knowing what it looks like from day one. And, initially I thought, this might just be mistakes that we make in our 20s.
Right.
But after a while, I realized it was a character flaw. And I'm like, I ain't going to be involved with this.
But did you realize that after marriage?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because at that point, it's like, I'm entitled to know a little bit more about what's going on with your money. And at one point, I don't know why he did this, but he did give me a social security number. So I started investigating. I looked at the credit score.
I know all my exes. I still know it by heart, all the socials.
So I started looking at the credit report. I started looking at all the stuff that was going on. And I'm like, oh, wow, like this is even worse than I thought it was.
Yikes.
We're definitely not going to be the type of couple that has joint anything.
But once you're married, isn't his debt yours as well?
Not if it was in existence before you got married, and not if it wasn't issued as a joint account. So we never took out joint accounts.
Okay. I was under the understanding, well, I don't know because I've only been married once. I was hella young.
Yeah.
But I thought that once you get married, their debt becomes your debt.
It all depends on when you accrued the
So
debt.
you have to accrue the debt while married.
While married and in a situation where like both of your names are on that loan or whatever
it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So where is the story now where you're like, things just went south and you're like, you had to get out of there?
Yeah. Okay, so the first incident was in 2017.
Okay.
I am in my house. We're in our house. My family's visiting from Puerto Rico.
You're living in Jersey?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're in Jersey. And my parents are over. And my mother gets a message from somebody on Facebook talking about, I'm having an affair with your daughter's husband.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Not this bitch gonna call my mama.
Right? Okay.
Not my mama.
She went and found my mom on Facebook and sent her dick pics. Like all the messages that they've been corresponding. Like, ma'am, she had all the evidence. But
she's sending it to the wrong person.
Well, apparently she had been trying to get in touch with me. And for whatever reason, I didn't get her messages. Right? Okay. So, I mean, she was real determined. I'm like, I got to give it to her. So that happened. And I had a mental breakdown.
I gotta drink the water.
Right? I had a mental breakdown because, you know, this shit doesn't happen to me. That was like my mentality, right? You know, he comes with the whole sob story. I was, you know, going through a hard time. This was years ago. This is not actively going on. You know, this was a time when he was unemployed and just going through mad shit. Right? So
sure.
Whatever. Okay. So we go to couples counseling. I'm like, I want to fix it, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to get divorced. Nobody gets divorced in my family. Like, y'all could be in a toxic fucking marriage for 45 years, but we're not getting divorced, right?
That's part of our culture.
It's part of our culture. So I was like, I'm not going to be the one to get divorced. So we go through all that. We moved to Florida to reset, right?
Start over. In Florida?
Sunny, right?
Palm trees.
Who could live a bad life here, right? So we do that. And July 31st, 2022.
Oh, wow. 5 years later. You still with him?
Yep. Woman shows up to my house.
2022. Bitch, that's last year.
Yeah. At 6:00 in the morning.
Showed up to your house?
Showed up to my house, ringing my doorbell, looking for my husband, talking about I've been in a 3-year relationship with him. So he did the same shit here in Florida.
Not the same chick?
No.
A different one?
A different one.
3 years?
From the club that he was working at. Some 20-something-year-old bartender.
Oh! Is he your age?
He's 38.
That is pedophilia.
Yes. So, you know, that for me was
at
like
6 in the morning?
6 in the morning.
Before we started rolling, you said you're not a morning person.
Exactly.
Okay, so what does she want?
She was looking for him because he wasn't in the house. And he left the club and she thought he came to the house.
To what house?
To my house. She came to my house looking for him.
How does she know where you live?
Because she was staying there whenever I was on vacation.
Stop.
Girl, yes.
Oh, he has cojones.
Yep.
Big ones.
Yep. I'm so mad I didn't have like a Ring camera installed in my house.
Girl, that would have went viral. You didn't check the neighbors? Maybe they might have had one.
I'm so mad about that. Yo, that would have been premium content.
Damn. Okay. So now how does he try to get out of that one?
So I didn't know where he was. Nobody knew where he was. He disappeared for like a good 48 hours talking about, you know, I'm going through shit, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Where was he?
I will never know.
Still to this day, we don't know?
No, I know where he is. Well, I don't know where he is now, but
we still don't know where he was for those 48 hours?
He left the club and he disappeared. And then he showed up at my house talking about, I'm sorry, I want to fix it. And I said, your shit's in the garage. You got 48 hours to get your stuff out of my house or I'm calling a U-Haul and it's going to be put in there and put in storage until you figure out what you're going to do with your life. Under? So it was it was under both of our names, but he couldn't afford to pay for the place. Okay. I could afford to pay for it by myself. So I was basically like, you're gone. Get out. And apparently he checked into rehab.
For what?
For sex addiction. That was his like way of buying himself some time out of work.
Okay.
And then I had his shit shipped to U-Haul and said, go figure your life out. I'm filing for divorce. And that was it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So did he ever financially like put you in a bind?
Luckily, no.
No.
Because before all this happened, when I was planning to transition to full-time entrepreneurship, I met with a CFP.
What's a CFP?
A certified financial planner.
Okay.
So it's a financial professional that basically helps you figure out a whole plan for your money, for your life. So,
Nice.
to get you closer to your retirement goals, making sure you have things like insurance, estate plan, etc. And one of the things that she asked me was, do you have a prenup? And I said, no. And she said, well, I'm going to need you to get a postnuptial agreement.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
I like
So
that. What year was this?
This was 2021.
Okay. Oh, right.
January 2021.
Wow, he was still smashing this.
Yeah. Yep. Being real messy. And so I found out what a postnuptial was. It's basically like a prenup, but you get it after marriage.
Okay.
And what you have to do is each of you disclose your financial stuff. So all of your debts, all of your assets, and you declare it to each other. And then attorneys put together paperwork that basically say what's yours is yours. And in the event that you get separated, you don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe alimony. This property goes to whoever. So it's basically like you build a plan for divorce.
Right.
It's like an emergency.
Well, it's a business.
Yeah.
It's also a business because marriage is a business contract at the end of the day. As much as we would love to say, oh my God, I love you forever. You have to look at it as business because you have to protect yourself.
Yep.
We're all humans at the end of the day. And a human can hurt you at any point in time. We pray that they don't. We hope they don't, but they do.
People change.
Right.
And so a postnup or a prenup is insurance against that person changing in
Right.
a marriage. And
he signed it.
Yeah, he signed it. And I took the responsibility of the whole process away from me by deferring the fact that the CFP recommended it, right? And so when people ask me, like, how did you bring this up? Because this seems like it would be a really messy conversation that would trigger somebody. And I was just like, well, this is a financial professional that's recommending this, and it's meant to protect you from my business too. Like, let's say my business went bankrupt. Right. So it was mutually beneficial, and it should be. Whenever it's not, it's usually because the person who stands to lose something was coerced by the person that has more power. And so in order to make these agreements enforceable by law, you have to both have your own legal representation, or at least the opportunity to have your own legal representation, so that your interests can be taken into account without influence from the person. Right. And so that was finalized in, I want to say like April of 2021. And I had to deploy it about a year later.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Now, I got a question.
Yeah.
Let's just 2 seconds in the mess. When this chick shows up to the door, what happens? You just say he not here, close the door?
No, I was asking her, like, who are you? What are you doing in my house? And she's like, well, I didn't know that y'all were together. He told me that you were separated. We've been in a relationship for 3 years.
How? Like, girl, I live here.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, where were you having a relationship? Because he was working from home. So he was always in the house. The only time that they had a relationship was when he was DJing on the weekends.
And she was a bartender.
Yeah. So they had like a part-time relationship. And she was really thinking like that was a real thing. Yeah. She was convinced.
And the house was his.
Yeah.
And the cars were his.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything was his.
She was convinced.
But when you come into my... Wait, did this bitch sleep in your bed?
I'm sure she touched my dog, which is the thing that gets me real upset.
She said, forget the bed. My dog.
I'm sure she touched my dog, which makes me real upset.
Oh my... This is fresh. This is hella fresh. So how do you now... I can't even imagine going through that, right? Because mine wasn't... It wasn't cheating, So I'm not looking at another woman for anything. But how do you now pick yourself back up? Because emotionally, what does that do to you?
Yeah. No, I was, I think the first time I was emotionally devastated. By the second time, I was just like, a switch went off inside my head. And I'm just like, oh, this is going to be your life if you decide to do this for round 2. And so it was very easy to like turn off the emotions in the immediate aftermath of stuff and just be like, I need to get out of this ASAP. And I need to make sure that I don't lose financially in this situation. And so I was just real calm about the whole thing. I was not trying to provoke. I was not trying to cause any drama. I'm just like, I just need you to sign these papers real quick.
Divorce papers.
And yes, the divorce papers. And I wanted not to aggravate the situation so that the post-nup wouldn't come into question. And luckily he was too broke to afford an attorney. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just keep things real civil until I got the final divorce papers in November. And I didn't owe him a damn thing. I didn't have to pay him alimony. I didn't have to pay him anything.
Wow.
I lost nothing.
And that's one of those things that and you guys didn't have kids?
No.
Just a dog. Did you keep the dog?
The dog is definitely in the divorce thing that belongs to me. It's like the property sole owner. I made sure.
Okay, because the dog it becomes a thing during divorce.
He was trying to utilize that as a manipulation tool. Like, oh, well, she's 50% mine. And I was like, show me 50% of the bills that you pay for her.
I'm not trying to take the dog. What you gonna do with the dog?
Right. I'm like, bro, you're renting a room on like Airbnb because you can't even afford to get a lease for an apartment.
Oh, he broke.
Yeah, like the dog ain't going with you, sir.
Like, the dog will starve. You could barely eat.
Exactly.
You can't feed the dog.
Exactly.
So definitely for me and for y'all listening, prenup has
1,000%.
And if you're already married and listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I already signed the papers, post-nup.
Yeah.
I don't see anything. Whenever someone feels a way about a prenup or a post-nup, I always ask, but why?
Because you're probably with a narcissist. That's
she
what
said it. She said it, not me. And be like, oh no, we got this. It's us. We're supposed to be doing it. No. I don't know. And most likely 99.9% of the time, they're really fucking shitty with money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really bad with money. That's one thing that I remember thinking before like a lot of this stuff. I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable. There was something I didn't feel comfortable about, sharing bank accounts. And there's a lot of things, like, every business that I've ever been a part of has been 100% solely in my name. And didn't matter what name was on the display, the business aspect was always 100% mine. And it bothered me. It really bothered me inside as to why I felt like I had to do that. And I remember going to therapy and saying, I shouldn't feel this way. If I'm going to marry someone, why do I feel this way? Years later, I'm like, thank God that I didn't, do anything joint or whatever. Right. But I feel like we all always know and have like a gut feeling, because I have also met with married couples that have joint accounts and that they trust each other blindly. And that, I'm like, that's a different type of love that I've never experienced.
Yeah. I don't know if I can deal with that.
I don't know if I could deal with it, but I also have never experienced it.
Yeah.
To feel like, oh my God, because I closed my eyes and I allowed to be led in other things, and I submitted myself in other ways. But the financial aspect, I'm like, I can't do it. But also, Wilmer didn't teach me to do that. My daddy taught me well, and he was like, it's kind of fucked up, because I remember being young. He's like, if you lay on your back, you better leave 100 on the table. I'm like, are you telling me to be a prostitute? Like, what?
That's hilarious.
No, but he always was like, if you're laying with a man, he needs to pay some bills. Like, he always needs to take care of you, but you always have your own.
Yeah.
Always have your own. And I'm like, I always remember this, because my dad was a whore, and he had, chicks on the side. But I remember the one main chick he had on the side, he had a house for her, and the house was under her name. So as much of I wouldn't want him as a husband,
right,
but I saw what he would do, and he's like, women need to have their own. So whether you're the side chick, there's just a house that if something happens to me, you've been submitted to me for these many years. And I'm like, why would a man do that for me? So my truck, my name, my house, my name, my everything, my business is my name.
Right.
That way no one can take that away from you. But hopefully one day I can find someone that I can say, hey, we can go into business together, but I would still have my own.
Absolutely. And especially since you're a mom, it's not even about you at this point.
No, it's my children.
Yeah.
It's absolutely my children. And I definitely got to take notes on the CFP, because I've had, my accountant and all that stuff, but that's not necessarily planning. I just, when I was working corporate, I have life insurance, and life insurance is so important.
Yeah.
It's so, especially when you have children and you're like, what do you need it for? Because it's supplementing my income. I find it weird when people get life insurance on their children.
It's just another additional protection, because you just never know.
So I see life insurance as a replacement of income. Yeah. In the case of someone passes away. Neither two of these motherfuckers are giving me shit. They are a liability, and they drain me. Not a dime. Yeah. So I'm not replacing it. Yes, burial insurance, I get it. That way I don't have to come out of pocket if something, God forbid, happens to my children. But I know some people do it anyway. Like, it's like, oh, it's the life insurance there on your kids. Do what you do. But just have something. Yeah. Always have something. Don't be the GoFundMe person.
No, we've seen enough of that. And honestly, like, especially something like term life insurance is so inexpensive, especially if you get it in your 20s and 30s. There's no excuse. You're paying more for like some subscription. You're probably paying more for Uber Eats than you'd be paying.
Absolutely. can we not talk about that? Triggered when I saw what I spent on Uber Eats. I was like checking, and ever since I've been back, I used to cook all the time. I'm at home, and I was a homemaker. I was like, arroz con pollo all the time. My friend Mandy jokes on me all the time. She'd be like, oh my God, there you go with your arroz con pollo again. And I'm like, you ate it when I cooked it for you. So I was always cooking, and now that I'm back home and I have 2 kids and I'm working, and it's just so much going on, emotionally especially, I don't want to cook.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to get cook the baby something small. Here, eat this, and I'll just order Uber Eats for myself.
I will never shame women for outsourcing home tasks. Okay, I have a housekeeper and I live alone. Live alone. Okay, I have somebody who mows my lawn because there's just more important things that I need to be doing with my time.
Who's mowing a lawn?
Please, we're not doing that. 2023.
Like, oh my God, I'm a strong woman and mow my lawn. Shut up.
Yeah,
you're stupid. Unless that's something you really enjoy. I know there's people out there that really enjoy washing clothes.
Right. That's not me. More power to you. I would rather pay somebody to fold my underwear.
I literally fold my drawers.
Literally.
Like she was just there yesterday. I have not washed clothes on my own since I was in high school. I used to use my allowance, and I say this all the time. I use my allowance to pay my mom's friend to come and clean my room and wash my clothes, because if not, I couldn't go out and play.
There you go.
But I needed that done. So, and we talk about it on this pod all the time. Outsource. My lawn is done. Someone comes and cleans my house. I have daycare for the baby. I had a nanny when I was working. You know, and does that put a lot of pressure on you work-wise? Yes. Especially when you're doing everything on your own. I talked about it on my solo episode that I put out this week, and it was just, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted because I'm always waiting for another shoe to drop. You know, I'd stay in court because people don't know how to leave me alone. There's always something, but I have to put more time into myself. So how do you pour into yourself before we go into, like, you know, I know some of you are like, well, how's she making this? How can I make my own side hustle? We're going to get to it. Don't you worry. I'm not just going to give you this great story. I'm going to help you out too. But how do you pour into yourself? Because that's something that I'm trying to learn from more women, how to pour into myself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that that's not something that we're taught how to do. No. You know, especially if you come from a Latino household. Like, I still can't take naps because I was literally traumatized about like sleeping in bed past a certain amount of time because my mom was like, that's lazy, right? Yes. Like, you cannot be in bed past like 10 a.m.
Right.
And so simple stuff like that is going to take reprogramming. Literally. Because rest is revolutionary, right?
Right.
Rest is revolutionary, especially if you're a person of color. So for me, it involves, first off, moving my body. I have to move my body every single day, whether they're weightlifting, doing Zumba, twerking in my office, whatever. We're going to find a way to move the body.
I got to do that.
It's a must. Okay. And it disconnects you from the hustle, which I think is so necessary, especially if you're an entrepreneur, because I'm a workaholic. And if I don't step out of my house and socialize with humans at the gym, that will not, you know, I'm going to be stuck in my house all day.
Yeah.
So that's number one. You know, something as simple as just like feeding your body well. I think it's easy when you're busy to just go to the fast food place and outsource all of that. But at the end of the day, I know I'm going to feel like shit if I continue down the path. And I was definitely using food as a coping mechanism during my marriage. I got so heavy. I was drinking excessively. So just realizing when we're self-sabotaging why we're doing that stuff, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to sit here and eat a bag of chips. Why am I eating this bag of chips? Because I'm fucking depressed. Right?
no, it's serious.
For real. Because I know when I'm feeling good, I make good decisions about my body and my health. And so keeping that, you know, top of mind is important. And we need therapy, y'all.
Yo.
Okay? We need therapy.
We need it.
So that's a regular thing for me too. I've also started doing somatic experience stuff where it's like therapy meets like reconnecting with your body. So it's like inner child healing. Like, you basically like imagine your inner child and start talking to them and like forgiving them for all the things that have happened.
This inner kid is wild. Listen, every time I talk about my inner child, I'm like, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
So do you do it with someone?
Yeah. So I found a practitioner who specializes in that. And it's good. It's a good complement to like talk therapy, right? Because I think sometimes what happens with therapy is it can be like we try to intellectualize our feelings when we think about them too much. Mm-hmm. And we have to get better at feeling them. Like, I'm terrible at feeling.
I don't like feelings.
Exactly.
I'm a thug.
I'm terrible at feelings. And so that's been a huge thing for me of just like sitting there with the anger that I had about allowing myself to be in this relationship, allowing myself to be abused and gaslit. Like, you have to be able to feel all of the grief so that then you can start to move past it.
So you've been feeling?
Oh, I've been feeling. For the past like 6 months, I have been just crying.
I just got Botox. I'm tired of crying.
Yes.
I literally like, so I think I might need to re-up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. You got to cry it out. You got to just forgive yourself. And literally, I would be talking to myself. I'm like, girl, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You were a different person back then.
How's your support with your family?
They were so ecstatic about me getting divorced. Like, they hated him.
Did they throw a party?
They pretty much wanted to, and I'm like, y'all relax. Like, we're not doing all that. But they made shirts. I mean, people made shirts like divorced AF. Like, everybody was celebrating. I swear to God, I gotta send you the picture. That
is so dope.
But because they knew about the first time, and they were all just like,
you should have left him there,
right?
But we just never know. It took 5 years for you, and you were in. Did it feel good? Those 5 years, were they good?
No.
Absolutely not. Wait, you mean the sunshine and the palm trees didn't make it better?
You know, the thing that was my coping mechanism was building my second business, which is my podcast. It was like the escape mechanism for dealing with this drama. And, you know, I had to channel it somewhere, and it led somewhere great. So I'm like, you know what?
Right.
It was all meant to be and happen the way that it happened.
Listen, podcasting saves lives.
It does.
And I think some people just say it like, oh, yeah. No, this podcast has literally saved me from being in jail. I have not killed. I have not hurt myself. My children are safe because I've been able to use the space of podcasting. To me, I always say it's a spoken journal. Yeah. It's
talk therapy.
Yes, it is. I am my own therapist in this bitch. Or really, I go to therapy and then talk about what I just talked about in therapy or just in my feelings. Because like even lately, today I had a conversation with May. The past couple of days, I'm back into this feeling of maybe I'm the narcissist. I'm like, I must be doing something wrong because those people that are supposed to be the closest to me, they're supposed to be the ones to protect me, are the ones that are like attacking me. So I'm like, well, did I do something? Have I said something? Am I wrong? But then today,
am I the problem?
Am I the drama? Like, is it me? So I really have been taking a deep look. It's like, what have I done for y'all to treat me or to be doing me this way? And I know in my heart that it's not me. And then today I go on the radio and I have to report on Meghan Markle. Not that I'm comparing myself to Meghan Markle, but and also Tyler Perry. I remember him saying as he, started going up in his business and getting better and elevating, there were people close to him that were doing him dirty. And today I report on Meghan Markle's half-sister suing her for $75,000 because she mentioned in the Oprah episode that she was a single child and felt like an only child. And she's like, well, that humiliated me and put me to shame because she has a sister and I'm her sister. So now I want $75K. Do you know how many lawyers she has to get for this? And forget the lawyers. She lives a very public life. Right. So how does that feel to know that your sister that at one point you were close to is doing you dirty? How do I feel as a sister of mine that when I was so close, I was close, it was my sister, to go to court and lie in front of a judge on me, and a brother that doesn't even reply. And I'm like, what'd I do to you? It's a mother that literally does not reach out. Yeah. For what? Yeah. What did I do to you? And that just new levels come with new devils. But I always ask women of color that are in business and are doing well, what does that, do you have any issues with people that were close to you that you might feel like they're not supportive?
I don't want to say not supportive, but I feel like they almost put you in an other category. Like you can't relate to the struggle no more. Like we can't talk to you about certain things because you're just not, not living in the hood anymore. Gotcha. Right. And so like you become unrelatable. I always call it like when Jenny from the block becomes Jenny with the bag. Like you're not seen as part of the community anymore sometimes.
But we are.
And
I'm
it's just
still
like,
sitting here feeling I'm the same person. I'm just doing a few different things, a different job, essentially. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, sometimes I look at people that, that wear clothes and I'm like, that 9 to 5 looks really good right now. Because it's 5:01 and you left. And you went home. Benefits, right. Okay. And you got, on Friday how much you're making, right? And it's like, you don't have to worry about, I need to upkeep this. Because the more you make, the more maintenance there is to upkeep, the more people you're paying. Right. Like when I look at my payroll, sometimes I'm like, who's paying that? And what account is it coming out of?
Where did all these people come from?
So confused. Like Stephanie and Courtney, they're all editing this and they send, on the first, they send their invoices and I'd be like, so
about that OnlyFans page.
Right. I'm like, so you still want me to pay you? Like, oh, so you weren't, I thought you liked me
Right.
this month again. Like but it keeps coming, and that's something that they can't relate to.
Yeah.
Because they're not paying out anybody, or they're not reinvesting in themselves. But at the same time, I still have my struggles, and we can still talk, and I still have the same feelings, and I'm still the same person, just in a different position.
Yeah.
And so I guess that would make sense. Now, before we do go into the business aspect of it, since we did just mention therapy, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, hey, I would love to get therapy as well, but it's expensive and I can't afford it. It is. Therapy is expensive and a lot of people can't afford it, but I do want to say thank you to BetterHelp for always sponsoring this podcast. And BetterHelp is a place where I have actually gone to, and I did you use it also?
Yep, absolutely.
I have used BetterHelp, and I used BetterHelp when I got here in March. BetterHelp will assess the needs that you need, who you are, and they're going to match you with your own licensed professional therapist. So it's not like your homegirl. It's not.
It's not your Thea who's going to judge you.
It's not. And it's not also like getting help from the state, right? It's an actual licensed professional therapist, and you're going to start communicating with them within 48 hours. It's not a crisis line, and it's not self-help. So don't start to call it when you're like suicidal. That's 911 or like a mental health. But this is like, I know I need help, and it's done securely online from the comfort of your home. It's way more affordable than traditional therapy. Traditional therapy can run you up to like $250, $300 a session. Literally a session. Will not with BetterHelp. So you'll get it online, and financial aid is available. I used the financial aid at one point in time, and it works. Mm-hmm. It really works. And you spend a lot more money in one Uber Eats than what it could be for one session with your therapist. And you can like text them, and they're super helpful. So what I want you to do is go to betterhelp.com/PWP. That's better, HELP/PWP. The link is also in the description. You're going to join them. You're going to get 10% off your first month, and just try it. Just try the first month and see where it goes. There you have 4 sessions. You have access to them via text, and just talk about what you have, and maybe you can explore more things about yourself. This is very different than talking to your homegirl. Yeah. Like Gwendolyn knows I talk to her and Paola all the time, and we go through these. We think we're doing some deep shit.
Right.
Oh my God, we think we're talking about some deep shit. And then I go to my therapist and I'm like, yo, we're full of shit. Mm-hmm. We don't know what we're talking about. This made so much more sense than what we were talking about. But your friends are still, your support system or your family, but your therapist, it's actually trained.
Right. And those people around you are typically going to be biased towards a certain opinion.
Right.
Whereas a therapist is supposed to have an objective view and just help you see the full picture.
Right. I will say, when I moved to New York in 2019 for those 3 months, when I took my career to the next level, it was my therapist who came up with that idea. She's like, well, why don't you go? I'm like, what am I supposed to do with my daughter? She's like, her dad. I'm like, she's never stayed with her dad before. She goes, well, figure it out. Yeah. Leave for 3 months. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, where did I stay? Does your friend have a room? I mean, technically, yes. Well, offer her money. And that's when I moved with Mandy for that. I would have never made those decisions if she wasn't like, just do it. And still to this day in my business, like, I'm taking this self-care trip that I keep talking about that I still haven't booked. But it's really hard for me to do so. And she's like, Carla, stop. Just go. Yeah. And she's the one putting the battery in my back. And she texted me. She's like, did you book it? I'm like,
speaking of self-care trips, because this is related to how I first knew that I needed to get a divorce.
How'd you know?
I got a universe download like a year before this whole incident happened, when I took my first solo trip to Puerto Rico to celebrate quitting my job.
And he didn't go with you?
No. I went specifically alone.
Okay.
And I was literally in the hotel room staring at the ceiling, laying on the bed, and I got like a download from whoever that said, I don't want to go back home. I don't want to be married anymore.
Wow.
And I didn't know what to do with that. But I never forgot that.
It was
already there. It was already like manifesting. Right. And then the things needed to happen for me to get confirmation that, yeah, that's what needed to happen.
Wow. Yeah. You probably could still like smell the room.
Yeah,
see the
absolutely.
Room.
Yeah, I get taken back there with that memory.
We all know at one point what we need to do. We just that's why some people go to like tarot readings, which I did when March. I'm like, I am very spiritual, and I grew up in the church, and I've had my issues with the church growing up. I left for some years and came back, but I'm like, I'm desperate. And I knew it was either turn to drugs or turn to just whoring myself out, which I've never done. But I'm like, that will numb my pain. It was so much pain. Yeah. So much pain coming back home and leaving my my relationship and my family. So I did a tarot reading. I don't know if I necessarily, she even came on the pod. I don't know if I necessarily believe all of it, but I feel like she's just, they say stuff and you decide what to do with it. And it's feelings that you already had.
Yep.
So that's why sometimes I'll read the astrology. Love that shit.
Yeah.
I read it from and if it makes sense, I'm like, oh, you know what? That's what it is. And then sometimes I read it, I'm like, that's why I believe in Jesus. Because I don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
But definitely, we all have something within us. And I truly believe that therapy. Were you in therapy while you were married?
Occasionally, but
like in and out.
It's picked up much more since the divorce.
I was going 4 times a week.
During the relationship?
No.
Okay.
There I was doing once a week. Once I left, I was going 4 times a week for 3 months.
I mean,
you got
what you got to do. You got to face your shit.
Figure out what you can do. And BetterHelp was there for me. Tell me, because you can get extra sessions on that. Okay, so really quick, so we can go into creating a side hustle. So women-owned business. Women own 42% of all companies in the U.S. And that sounds great, right? Yeah, not. Because out of all the women-owned businesses, African-American, 21%. Minority owned is 50%. So 42%, 50% is already minority owned. The other 50% is white. Then we go into Latinos is only 18%, with African Americans being 21% of that minority owned. And I look at it and I'm like, all right, wow. So it's not many of us women of color that have businesses. And you're like, well, what does that even mean at the end of the day? Then I looked even more. I have a bachelor's degree that took me 37 years to get. I have an accounting and a business degree. I was in school forever because I had my daughter, and it was just like I had my associates that I needed to, in order to get higher in accounting, that you need your bachelor's, right. Which is why I went back for my bachelor's. But you smart. So you went to school. So you have a master's?
Yeah, I have a master's in biotechnology. And a bachelor's in molecular biology and chemistry.
I don't even know how to say molecular.
That's so fucking I was pre-med originally because, every kid.
She's a doctor.
Every first generation kid is like, you got doctor, lawyer, engineer. Pick one. What you gonna do? That's it.
You're like, well, my dad was a drug dealer and a business owner. Well, when I was born, I think he left the drugs. He was a big time drug dealer, and then he took that into business. And he was a very well-off entrepreneur.
Listen, drug dealers are entrepreneurs too. I don't care what anybody says.
Absolutely.
There's a whole infrastructure.
But here's the thing. I support respect. More respect. I support some of them now, I guess, technically. But I really respect someone that comes from the streets without, like my dad, my grandparents were very poor, right? There were times my grandma would tell me that my grandpa wouldn't eat in order to feed them. So he came from a very poor family. So he had to do what he had to. He started selling drugs at 16, 17 years old from what I remember him telling me. But he took that entrepreneurial mind of drug dealing to create the businesses that he had. And he became extremely successful without even a high school degree.
Right.
Without a high school degree. So you can already have, for us, we're pushed to go to school. If you have a degree, great. But if you don't, out of that percentage of women that are business owners, 26% only have a high school diploma or a GED. So more than half don't even have a college degree, and they are successful business owners. 20% have associate's degree, 30% bachelor's degree, 18% a master's degree, and 6% a doctorate. So you do not need this crazy degree in business to start a business. You just have to be passionate about what you do.
The education system teaches you how to be a worker. They don't teach you how to be a creator. So if you're trying to be a business owner, you have to learn by the school of hard knocks. That's the only way.
Absolutely. So with the food blog that you had, it was something that you were just passionate about.
Absolutely. I've always started businesses from a place of just pure curiosity and passion. I've never set out to monetize anything. What happens is that when you're passionate and you are committed to excellence and you keep showing up, people notice that shit and they start throwing money at you. And that's literally exactly what's happened.
Throw it.
Yeah.
They throw it. And that's one thing that I feel like I get a lot of phone calls and a lot of messages of like, I just want to be where you are. And I'm like, well, do you remember when I was doing this for nothing?
Exactly.
Do you remember when I was doing it out of a room in my house, or a corner, or just audio? Yeah. Literally with like all this equipment or whatever it may have been. It was Shit I'm 30 the podcast, but before that it was Shit I'm 30 the blog. And I was just at work on my work computer writing a blog, taking pictures with Santa and Ayana to write a blog about how I felt. That's literally what it was. Mm-hmm. So I didn't set out to do it for money. I just needed an outlet. And eventually the money starts coming in and you're like, oh, I can do this here. Then I had a podcast and I'm like, well, I enjoy being on the mic. This is cool. But I really like the behind the scenes. I really like the production. I really like putting stories, like sitting here with you right now. I'm like, now this is what I'm really loving to do. But then I can to go home and produce somebody else's, right?
Right.
So that I found it. And all of the people that work with me, we did an episode with my team a couple of weeks ago when we just added someone else. Everyone that works with me has been through my academy. So they all came from Idea to Launch Academy, and they learned podcasting from what I learned back in the day when I wasn't getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
So it will all come full circle. But the problem is that you want to sit here and hang out, but you also want to go to brunch with your homegirl. You know how many? I didn't go to Thailand. One of my really close friends, Carla, because I needed to work on this stuff. I missed Singapore. I missed so many vacations with everyone because they're like, but you're not even like rich or anything. But this is what I know I need to do. Right. And I'm okay with skipping out on a couple of years of fun in order for me to be able to now live the freedom. Like I have friends, you got to go to work and you got to wait for somebody to tell you when to go to work. I can just say, I'm not coming in.
Right.
Or today I'm not doing it. And does that mean I'm a millionaire? No, I'm not. I'm not even close. But I have freedom. And for me, freedom is
that's priceless. That's what everybody wants.
Priceless.
It's not even about, at the end of the day, money is the thing that gets you to freedom.
Yes.
Right? We're not chasing the money. We're chasing the thing that money can buy us. It's the option to leave a toxic fucking marriage. It's the option to go move your kids to a safer city. It's the option to say, you know what? I don't want to deal with any of this shit and I don't have to.
Right.
Because I can buy my way out of it.
I don't want to.
I don't want PTO. I do not like PTO. You ain't going to tell me how many times I can take vacation.
Okay, so I want to talk about it on air, but PTO triggers me. It makes me feel
it's adult fucking daycare. That's what corporate America is.
But I will say, I always say to everyone, if you are in corporate, do not feel like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. No, use that job as a vessel to get your side hustle, because I wouldn't have been able to do it without accounting. There's no way in hell I wouldn't have been able to do it, because I needed that money to fund all the mics, to fund all the equipment, to be able to, still feed my daughter and work on something else on the side. But we have 24 hours in a day. And there's nothing that aggravates me more than me calling somebody and they're in bed. How you broken in bed? I just talked about it with Paola last episode. I was like, why are you sleeping? How dare you be sleeping when you haven't? No, You're not where you need to be. Don't complain to me about not having or being frustrated when you're sitting there in that bed. And I get being depressed and I get having all of that, but you can have 24 hours of, being there, eat all the Uber Eats and chips and cry, and then get the fuck up.
Yeah.
Get up. And it's a mind thing, honestly, to keep moving. It's all a mindset. And it's just, whether it's listening to this podcast, listening to your Quiero Dinero podcast and being inspired by someone else, you have to have someone that inspires you.
Yeah.
Who inspires you? When I think about, working with B. Simone, I remember, watching her. She always inspired me I would watch her. And I remember she did 30 Days to $1 Million. And I didn't know her at the time. I remember rooting. I'm like, yes, yeah. Ooh, what can I purchase? Let me purchase something. And you don't know who they are.
Right.
You have no. Rihanna is a billionaire. And my excitement for her to go to do the Super Bowl, I bought the outfit. It was $217, and I'm never gonna forget, because who the fuck pays $217 for a tracksuit?
Yeah.
And a beanie that I'm never gonna wear because I don't wear beanies. But I had to have the whole thing, and I was gonna get the drawers too, but they were sold out. But I just wanted to support it because it's like, you haven't stopped.
Yeah.
You haven't quit. You've had so much happen to you. You had the whole Chris Brown situation that could have taken you down. You had the prince that you were dating, it didn't work out. You've been called a whore and all kinds of things, and you didn't stop when she could have.
Right.
And people want to support that. So when some people look at me like, you're on social media, people buy your stuff or they want to go on your retreat. Yes, they do. Because I show up weekly. You show up
every fucking day.
Like 100 times a day. I'm really jealous of how often you show up. I'd be so tired.
It's fun though for me. Like, this is the thing, when you find the thing that doesn't feel like work, you can do that shit forever.
Forever, literally. Forever. You really can. And then that's when you then align with your purpose.
Yeah.
And that's when you know you're in your purpose, because you're like, people will look at you and be like, I am exhausted watching you. You're like, but I'm having fun.
Yeah.
People are like, you wake up in the morning and you come here and then you go there and you go down and you have your kids. And I'm like, but I love what I do.
Right.
I really love what I do. And until you get to that point, if you're not there yet, keep searching.
Absolutely.
Keep searching, keep trying different shit, because you're going to find it. Now, what do you think is an initial investment, if you want to go into starting a side hustle?
So I love that you mentioned, to folks who are in corporate, like, let's not demonize the 9 to 5, because honestly, that's going to be your angel investor for your business, right? Absolutely. I always say your paycheck is your angel investor. I was building my side hustles for 7 years before I decided to take the plunge. So I will never be the type of business coach that tells you, yeah, just, go jump out the parachute. We'll figure this shit on the way out. No, we're not doing that. Okay. Especially if you're like a first generation kid or a person of color. We don't have the luxury of like being able to move back in with mom so she can pay my bills while I go and find myself and fund my fucking dreams, right? So I think a good place to start is probably creating a sinking fund, which is basically just like a little account that you create to fund your business, right? If you can save money to go on vacation, you can save money to go and get a new car.
She's talking to you.
You need to put aside some money to fund your business.
You went to Jamaica with your homegirls.
Absolutely.
You could start a business.
Start a business, save some money, put some skin in the game. But at the same time, I think with digital entrepreneurship especially, the cost is so low to start up, right? I mean, I started a podcast for fucking free. Yeah. I didn't even buy a mic, okay? I was literally using my earbuds, Apple earbuds, and my phone. And I think starting imperfectly is the thing you must do.
And people see the growth. You see the growth.
I think people get so invested in the journey of new entrepreneurs that like, I want to see that. Yep. I want to be invested from the beginning. There's people who follow me who've been listening since episode 1, and they are the most loyal.
They are
loyal because they're like, yo, this shit is real. Like, I've watched it happen in real time.
Right.
So it's not even about the money. It's like, are you serious about the time commitment?
Right.
Are you ready for the grind season? Those are the real investments that you need to be thinking about. Are you ready for your family to be aggravated because you're like not going over every Sunday to go to the freaking barbecue because you're building your business? That's the shit that's harder than finding a couple dollars to invest here and there.
That's the big, I like that you said that, because I think everyone focuses on the money investment aspect of it. And really it isn't. Yes, there's courses out here that we have for $700, $1,000, $3,000, $5,000. There's all those courses, but there's also YouTube University, which will take you a time investment.
Yeah.
If you can't afford to work with her, if you can't afford to work with me, well, you need to be able to afford the time to put in YouTube and Google and figure it out yourself. Because my entire course, you can find it on Google. You just got to piece it together. All I did was put the puzzle together for you. You know, the pieces are out there. You just have to find them and take the time to put them together yourself. Yeah. So that's really what it is. One thing that I do want to congratulate you on is buying the real estate. So I really thought that you were born in Puerto Rico because you're so like, I love it.
I love it.
But I could tell this I was born and raised there, and it took me until my mid-20s to really fall in love with Puerto Rico again. Because whenever we went back, it's like family, and you got to go back to the house.
That's it. You're just in the sala.
That's it.
You don't even see the fucking beach. I'm like, why are we here?
At 25, I remember I went with my friends and my dad was there. And I went vacationed and just found stuff on Travelocity to go do. And it was I'm like, this place is beautiful. I'm not just watching like drunk uncles and the crackheads on the side and getting like canepas of the, I still get the canepas on the side of the road.
That's a must.
Favorite. But I'm not just going to my grandma's house. I'm actually seeing the beauty of our island. And you actually went and got real estate there.
I did. It was actually my gift to myself for getting divorced.
This divorce is amazing. I'm like, well, he didn't take the best divorce story ever.
He didn't take my money, so I'm gonna use this shit for something cool.
Right.
That's honestly, it was to celebrate, surviving what was a chaotic ass year. Wow. 2022 was wild, and in the beginning of the year, I had set out with the ambition to buy a place, but I kept running into roadblocks, and I was still married at that point. And then it was like right after Thanksgiving, I got an alert in my email about this condo that was going up for sale. Contact the realtor. And when I tell you, this was meant to be, 9 days after I stepped foot on the island, I had the keys to the place.
Shut up. And Puerto Rico does not work like that.
No, it does not
work like that.
It does not. And it was the best way to close out the year that was giving, holy shit, what just happened.
I didn't realize that. So we're kind of on the same timeline. Mine was February 28th when I left, 2022.
Okay. Yeah.
That's when I came back.
Mine was August.
August 2022?
Yeah.
Wow. But the girl walked January.
It was July 31st.
Oh, July 31st when she came over.
Yeah.
In the middle of summer, girl.
Right? So rude.
Ay, Dios
I was like in the middle. But you know what? Bad Bunny put out his album, Un Verano Sin Ti. It was like meant to be, right? It was literally.
Mine was Karol G. That saved me. And I think the songs are old, but it was Oh my God. The songs that she did for what's his face? For Unwell.
Yeah, for Unwell.
Yeah, Mommy. Oh,
that was a whole sad girl album.
Yes. So there's like 3 or 4 songs on there that I'm like,
yeah.
that I was replaying them. My daughter's like, Ma, again? Watch your mouth. Mind your business. We're going on live and we're going to sing it there too. I would sit there and translate it on live to therapy. English. You guys need it. You need it. You need it. I've never been a big music girl, but I think that's what got me into radio.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I still don't know shit. They'd be like, I'll be like, who is this again? And it's like, what song is this? But music really does, you know, bring you to a space, and it doesn't matter the darkest days that you go to, you can always pivot and just find what's for you. Yeah. And if you can endure years of a shitty marriage, of dealing with a broke man, and these hoes showing up to the door, boy, God knows what he does. He sure knows who to give what challenges to.
Absolutely.
Because I would have killed the bitch.
I did have a loaded gun in my house too, so everybody was real lucky. We're in Florida, you know?
We're in Florida. How dare you pop up to my house?
People are real reckless with their lives sometimes.
She must have been suicidal.
She must have been.
It got to been, but you know what? God spared her life. We're going to do a listener letter before we close out this episode. So this is, do you want to do a workaholic husband or lending money to family?
Oh, let's go with the lending money.
Somebody's been asking her for money. Okay. I just said this recently. I'm like, no one ever asks me for money. Maybe they see that I got all
better.
Ever. No one has ever asked me for money. And I'm like, I think I've made it pretty. I think they know better.
I had a man that I met on a dating app ask me for money.
Okay.
Stop. So I'm just like, people are wild out here in these streets. Like a couple $1,000s.
What?
And he was allegedly a basketball player in Puerto Rico that was like just going through shit, and he needed a couple dollars until his next contract went into play.
That might be
sir, that's a whole story you got rehearsed. Goodbye.
Wow. That might be my dad's side chick's brother. He played professional basketball in Puerto Rico. It might be him. That'd be hilarious. Okay, so lending money to family. If you want to send a letter, send it to askcarlawamaris@gmail.com, and I might read it next. So this one, how do you deal with a family member who frequently asks to borrow money but won't take any financial advice? I'm not dealing with the situation personally, but I have friends who are, and I know very well could end up in the situation. You lying as you. They tell me that they have relatives who ask them for money for things like rent and other debts, but they notice that the borrowers do seem to have bad spending habits. When they're not asking for money, they're discussing vacations they want to take, things they want to buy, or they'll often show up with a new name brand shoes or other clothes. That, or they're just very secretive about their finances. But when the friend who lent the money even starts asking questions about their finances, they deflect, give answers that are contrary to reality, or just get defensive or even angry. I think it's in the lending person's right to ask questions if the borrowing person's financials hemorrhaging starts extending to the lending person. But I know this could cause a division between family. How should the situation be dealt with?
Never lend money to somebody that you anticipate getting back. It must be a gift.
Lose it.
It's a gift. And that's it. Like, honestly, it's nobody's business what they're doing with their money. If you're going to enable the situation, you're partial to blame, right? You're part of the problem. So it's either you're going to give them money out of the kindness of your heart and you're going to say, I'm never going to see that shit again, and cool.
And if you get it back, it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, or you're going to say, no, I'm not going to enable your bad behavior and I'm not going to participate and I'm not going to give you money.
Right.
That's the only 2 options.
Do you lend family members
Absolutely
money?
Not. Absolutely not. I give very generously, but I never give with the expectation of getting back.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just like, it's going to cause drama.
It does.
Every single time. Like 0 out of 10, do not recommend.
So when you get a loan, they ask a lot of questions. They want bank statements for the past 6 months. They want what your income is. They want a promissory note, all these things. So if you want to go through all of that with a family member, go for it.
You're going to end up on Judge Judy.
Literally. And I love her.
I love her so much.
I really do. No, I think something about me gives off don't ask me for shit. Maybe it's the fact that I take care of 2 kids by myself and the parents don't really help. Or, you know, whatever it may be. No one really asks for money. But it's also knowing that I try to make really good decisions with my money. And if you... I'll put you on social media. I will post your picture and I will call you broke. Don't fuck with me. So definitely, I just don't think lending money to anyone, family, friends, it's a thing. I'm not a fucking bank.
Yeah.
I'm not a bank.
Nope.
Go to the bank, and if the bank's not giving you money, go to the pawn shop The pawn shop, you don't have anything of value for the pawn shop, then baby, sell that ass.
OnlyFans.
Get the OnlyFans. I don't know what to tell
pics,
you.
Whatever you got to do.
Do what you have to do, but don't come asking me for money. Like, there's times that I give like bums money or whatever, and I'll give them something. But a lot of the times, I'm just like, no, do something, work. There's all these different ways that you can work. Now, if you come to me saying, hey, how can I help to make money? Boy, quickly, you're the backyard. I got some work that needs to be done.
Right.
I have a shed that I want to make into an office. Who's ready? By the way, this is for real. If you're in Orlando, you know how to do all that kind of stuff. My shed, I want to turn into an office. Yeah, wash my car. Come clean up. Wash my drawers. You like to wash clothes? Yeah. You do have a cousin that likes to wash clothes and she needs money? Well, then come wash my clothes and I'll pay you for that. There are things that you could do for me, but me just handing you money, I'm doing you a disservice.
Absolutely. And I think especially too for the entrepreneurs or the aspiring entrepreneurs, if there's people that you want to mentor you, come with that attitude too.
Yes.
Like, please bring reciprocality into a relationship that you're asking for information or advice or something, because there's a lot of opportunistic people out here in these streets too. And we can see it. We're not going to help you if we feel like you're just trying to extract value and not add anything to our lives.
I love the DMs. So I want to start a podcast. How do I start? What?
Hello, I have a whole ass course. Thank you. Goodbye.
A whole course. And you have the same way you DM me, you could have Googled how to start a podcast.
Right.
And you would have a million places that you can go. Like, I no. But if you came to me and said, hey, I'm on my media host and this happened and I really can't get my iTunes to work, let me tell you something. I'll probably be like, send me a screenshot. I've done it. I've had people send me like, I can't go. And I will get on like Facebook chat and show me your computer. I've done it. Yeah. Literally, I've done it. So if you have a specific question, excuse me, and I have the time, I will 100% help you because it's a specific question.
Yeah.
And if it's like quickly to me, some things are much, I can tell you something in 2 seconds because it's in my brain. And I'm not a gatekeeper or anything like that. But come with value.
Yeah.
Everyone has value. If you have no value to bring to me, then I have nothing to give to you.
Absolutely. 100%.
I ain't got time for that. All right. So we close every episode with a Bible verse. This just goes back to, I was born into the church. I had issues with the church when I was, had my daughter young. Then I got married. Then I got divorced. And it's just everything. You have to believe in something. Yep. You have to believe in something or you'll fall for anything. So for me, it's this. But I found a verse that, brought it back to all of this full circle. And it's Ecclesiastes 5:10. And it says, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This is also vanity. And this was like, my gosh, because I have had arguments even on this podcast before it was called Pivot, and it was still Shit I'm 30, with a financial advisor, and we talked about, can money buy happiness? And this is a question that is a forever question, right? Does money buy happiness? It does not. Money enhances what you already have within you. And if you love money, you'll never be satisfied with how much money you have. If you love your wealth, you'll never be satisfied with how much income you have. And I have now experienced it. I've been around people, and the people that I do not have a relationship anymore, it's because of the love of money. And I don't love money. I love what I do, and money comes to me. I believe in abundance. I pray for abundance. I pray for wealth in order to be able to take care of others and help others. And it flows. Yeah. It flows. But when you're chasing it all the time, it's like you can't ever get it.
No, when you got the first million, then you want 2, or then you want 10. It's a never ending cycle. And right. I think we always have to come back to the question, when is enough enough? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a hard question to answer when we live in a capitalist society that just focuses on acquisition at all costs.
Right. So when you think about money and you think about faith, for me is, don't ever focus on the money. Focus on the purpose. Focus on your spirituality, and that will then come to you. Make sure that everything that you're doing is aligned with who you are and your beliefs without it. So again, that's Ecclesiastes 5:10. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor who he loves wealth with his income. This is also vanity. So just kind of check yourself and see what relationship you have with money and why you're chasing this money. What are you chasing it for? Is it for women? Are you chasing it to stunt on social media? Are you chasing it for what? Or are you chasing it because you want to provide for your family, you want to provide for others, and you want to, create a community of people that you can help? For charity work, I just got my my church statement of my tithing for 2022, and I was like, all right, JC. First of all, wow. Because I have it on auto pay. I put it on auto pay because I it's hard sometimes, giving money to the church, and you're like, you have to have faith blindly, right? And some people take, their donations as charity because maybe they might not believe in the church, whatever it may be. But for me, that's what it is. And when I look at it, I'm like, wow, I spent that much money. I've had to spend this much money in lawyers, and I have not needed. I have not needed yet. I have 2 kids that I take care of on my own. I have businesses, jobs, sicknesses. Everything has fell on me back to back, and not once have I needed for money. Payroll comes in and I choke, and the money's still there. The money's there. It won't go into the negative. I can take the vacation, and I'm not where I want to be, but it's just because it's a journey to get there. So just don't fall in love with the money, fall in love with the journey, and trust the process that God will be there for you. Thank you so much for coming. I know you took
having me.
That drive that a couple years ago was literally an hour and a half.
It was totally worth it.
And thank you. No, where can they find you? How can they listen to you? What do you have for sale? All that fun stuff that you can help the audience that want to work with you.
Absolutely. So you can find my podcast, Yo Quiero Dinero, wherever you're listening to this one. And you can find me online at yoquierodineropodcast.com. And if you love Puerto Rican food, you can go to delishdelights.com, get the arroz con gandules, pasteles, coquito, all that stuff.
Stop.
Yes, girl.
I literally just put delish and it came up.
Absolutely.
Delish and it came up. That's the website.
Yes. And so I'm also a business and a money coach. So if there are financial goals that you want to hit, especially around things like financial independence, you want to create that plan that's going to give you the blueprint for financial freedom. I have coaching opportunities for that. And I have 2 signature programs, the Ultimate Side Hustle Starter Kit for anybody who wants to create a digital side hustle. And I have my signature blogging bootcamp where I teach you how to create a money-making blog.
This blog looks great to me.
Thanks,
and it
man.
doesn't look like it's something super intricate.
No.
That it's not going to take a whole website engineer to do. And it looks great. Easy Latin recipes. Ooh, I like it. I'm going to cook one of these.
Please do.
And to add to that, if anyone is really interested in digital products, that's how I started making money, through digital products.
Yeah.
Selling all kinds of, templates and the course itself. There is something you have of value that you can put out there for someone. It could be moms that you're really good at breastfeeding. You've had 17 children, and at this point, you know how to put that titty in the baby mouth. So you can make some videos and put it out there and really teach some moms that are struggling to do it. I would have bought it because I was a cow, but I really didn't know how to do it, right? I couldn't do it with Ayana. It took me 4 months for Psalm. So it could be anything, literally anything that you're really good at, and you can put it into a course and sell it. And that doesn't mean it's going to be a $10,000 course. You could start. I started at $49. $49.
You got to start somewhere. The only money that is not being made is the one that you're not actively seeking.
Correct. So definitely check her out. Figure out something to do that you love, and eventually it'll make money for you. But you have to make a little investment. You know what I'm saying? Time or money. It's going to cost you either one. So don't forget to go to Synergy Wellness Retreat May 4th. We're out of here. There are 5 spots left for the retreat for Tulum. We'll be going there. It'll be part 2. Or the second time. We went in 2020. We did it here. And now we're going to Tulum. Really excited about that. So check it out. Everything is going to be on the notes of this episode, on the show notes. And we're out of here. Deuces. Goodbye.